Today I want to talk about self-doubt. The voice in your head that whispers, are you sure you want to make the decision? Are you sure you're not making a mistake? And then nothing happens. Now I take this very personal because recently somebody had asked me a question. They say, what about the decisions that you made in your life? Which one you wouldn't have made? Or did you regret making any mistakes? And I gave them an answer that it would surprise myself. And that was, not a single decision that I made was a mistake for me. Because at that time, when I made that decision, it was the right thing to do. And that was my intuitive, that was my own mental feeling. You see, not necessarily that those decisions didn't work out. But at that time, when I was making that decision, am I ever glad? Am I ever happy that I made that decision? Because not only the failure or flop of that decision teach me so much, it gave me new ideas as to how I can go forward. You see, the self-doubt is so difficult. It is such a, self-doubt is such a, self-doubt is so sneaky that it comes up on you, that it will put you in a situation where you are not sure that you want to make a decision, but then it just keeps on going on. It's the paradox, it's the muscle that just keeps on getting strengthening itself by saying, so what you do is you doubt everything. You continue to doubt everything, and resulting, nothing happens. You do not make any decisions. Now, in my businesses, wherever I was, with my partners, with my managers, or the employees, this is something that I would always promote. Make a decision when you are faced to make a decision. Don't wait, because indecision is truly a sin. In anywhere in life, in the business or in the life. Because you see, what happens is when we do not make decision, or when we're afraid to make a decision, that's when we do not accomplish anything. And that paradox of just goes into a circle from one to the other, because the more you convince yourself that whatever decision you're making is wrong, therefore you will not make a decision, or whatever decision that you are making right now will not pan out or will not be successful, then what you are doing is basically holding back. Now, let me tell you, my friends, one thing. Now, I have never stopped in my life. I'm one of those people who gets very excited, and I will jump into any decision. I will jump into any venture, and my answer is always going to be yes. But let me tell you that as much as I've always done that, there's always something in the back of my mind that's asking me the same question that I started with. Do you want to do this? You think this is going to work out? Do you think this is going to be successful? And I always listen to myself, then I reason with myself, and this is when I find out that no, I am going to do this, because I have made so many decisions in my life that have panned out so well for me versus the ones that I didn't. See, all my life I sat there thinking about it. Every decision at the beginning looked very difficult. Like for anybody, for any venture that you want to start, for everything that you want to do. You see, our brains, our mind is there to protect us. So just imagine you are at the edge of a diving board. You're standing there, and this is what starts happening to you. You start thinking, the water could be cold. What if I belly flop? People are going to laugh at me. But that's what our brains are made up for. That's what they do. They basically keep us informed as to how things can go wrong. So that's a natural protective system. But what it doesn't tell you, the joy of that dip, the joy of that water, the joy of enjoying yourself. And that is where we need to work more with our intuition than with our head. And that's where what happens is the doubt, the self-doubt just gets in, and that stops you from everything. Now, the price for that is so big. It is such a huge price that we pay, because the regret of not doing something lingers on for the lifetime, while the decision that you would have made, even if it went wrong, you would have learned from it and you have come back out. So self-doubt has, in my mind, has always been a sin that we commit for ourselves, not doing something. Because you see, inability, indecision will only stop you from making a move. Now, so my personal story has been one that I have always been, as much as I had seen some failures, a lot of them, but have always come out on the other side with a lot of successes. Here's my story. I was a young man working as a consultant and accountant. I had a small partnership, and I had an opportunity. And the opportunity was to go work with a small percentage of the profits at the same time, with the partnership, to work for a company which was on shaky grounds. But had it done well, would it do well? It would have done wonderful. Now I was in a dilemma, because this I found to be a great opportunity. I thought this is something that if it works out, it's going to be great. But if it doesn't work out, I would have lost everything else I have. But my intuition told me that this is something that will work for me. It changed my life from rags to riches, because things worked out exactly how I expected it to be. Yet there were so many things to be considered that I would have said to myself that, should I be doing this? But I did it, and I moved into that venture, which did everything for me. So every decision that we make, yes, there are so many negatives to mostly of the decisions, but there are so many positive. Because if you haven't tried it, and that is the point that I'm trying to make, if you haven't tried it, then all you're going to do is, for the rest of your life, you're going to sit and regret that you wish you would have done that. So you see, the regret itself lingers on for the lifetime, while your failure would have only been for the short time. You see, failures, as far as I'm concerned, have always been the teachers. They teach you as to what went wrong, as to what not to do, who not to trust and who to work with. But you will not know about that unless you have ventured, unless you have made a decision, unless you have fought that particular self-doubt which keeps on telling you, no, don't do that. You see, failures always bring in new opportunities. Failures will always bring you something that is new. Failures will always show you how to take a different route, how to do it differently. So it's the paradox of self-doubt which keeps you in the back, because what happens, the more you doubt yourself, the stronger the doubt gets. The stronger the doubt gets, the less chances are of you doing anything. Okay? So how do you actually do this? What is the key to make an informed intuition? Because you see, what happens is there's two things. One is your mind. You're standing there and you're saying, I cannot make this decision, because your mind is telling you everything that can go wrong. But then there's intuition. And because the mind is there to protect you, the intuition is the one that's in your own mind, that's in your own body, that tells you, yeah, maybe I should be doing this. So how do you create that intuition? See, these are the 5 ways that I felt that you could work with your intuition. So you get the clear on your own values. What are your values? I mean, of course, if your core values are of doing one thing and then an opportunity comes on something else, definitely you don't want to do it. But if your core values are where you are looking to grow, where you're looking to help other people, where you want to start a business, where you know what are you good at, and you know that with this you can help other people, then that's the first thing that you have to look at it. What is your why? What is your core value? What is your purpose? Why are you going to do whatever that you're going to do in your life? So that's the first thing that you have to clarify for yourself. The second thing is you have to make decision deadlines. You can't, you see, many people that I see say, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. And that get to it when I get to it never gets done. So you have to have a decision deadline. I have to make a decision by next week. A famous politician said, I got up in the morning, went out for a walk in the woods, and this is what I decided, because that's what he did. He took that time to go out and take the walk in the woods. Take that walk in the woods. Make a decision. Also put a deadline that I have to make a decision by this and this date, because this way you're not lingering. Because when you linger, this is again coming back to the same, for so many people. How many people do you speak to who say, I wish I would have done this? And these people are getting older every day, and the chance perhaps didn't come, or they just gave up on their own themselves. So, number 3 is do the fear inventory. Now it's really a mathematical thing, because what happens is when you are put in front of a situation which says, here's an opportunity that you believe you can take, and this opportunity, to do this opportunity, you have to sacrifice this and that. And all of a sudden, the fear sets in. So at the beginning, it's an albatross. It's something so big that you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to be able to do it. How could I do this? This is something. But if you sit back and take the fear inventory, which says, what could go wrong? What could go wrong in this particular venture? That's when the fear inventory will show you. You start looking at it, you start analyzing it, and you say, it's not as bad as I thought at the beginning. So the fear inventory becomes an important part, becomes a very vital part in making the decisions. Every time we make a fear inventory, it tells us as to how bad our own fear is. And then consider the opportunity. You know, there is always the opportunity. In my case, when I told you, a company was on a shaky grounds, but it had tremendous amount of opportunity. The products that it was producing, the products that it was designing were, if properly managed, would have given tremendous amount of gains in the market. This I knew. So you must look at what is the opportunity out there versus what you're going to lose. And that's very important to see the opportunity that's in front of you. Now again, this is all no fluff. This is straight talk. This is what makes you we're not talking about rocket science. We're talking about simple things. So it's all simple things, but these are the simple things that help, because once you have them in the back of your mind, once you have them in your mind, they will help you go forward. And then the fifth one is listen to your own body. Now, what do I mean by that? I've always felt that somehow or the other, that is one of the best tests that you can have for making any decisions. Because somewhere in your body, somewhere in your gut, there's always this thing that says, don't make that decision. Or just drop that decision. Don't procrastinate on it. Just drop it. No, you're right. You cannot do that, because your body movement will tell you. Or your body movement will tell you, yeah, that sounds good. Because we're talking about mind, which is going to stop us from doing certain things because it wants to protect us. But then we have the body, we have the intuition, and we have our body that tells us that already you start to feel something. So you see, those are the ways that you create your intuition. Now, how do we reframe? So you make a decision, and your decision didn't go well. So how do we reframe from those? How do we reframe those setbacks? Again, that's the most simple thing. You can sit and regret. You can sit and say that, my Lord, I could not make any more decisions. I can't make decisions. I'm not capable. Or you make a decision. You go forward and you make the decision. Because what is happening at this point is that if you're in the position where you are now seeing the setback from that decision, analyze it. See what went wrong. What were the opportunities that you missed? What are the peoples that you met? What are the products that you thought you can do? It is so much that brings in that particular failure that it is just amazing, because what you're doing at this point is you're looking and you're saying, this is what I missed. And then you go on. It gives you the taste of it. It gives you, like in my case, every time something went wrong, it was basically a guide for the next time as to how can we turn that situation around. So you see, failures will always give you the guide, unless and until you've really done something that's crazy, but that doesn't happen, because if you try to do some venture, they say, if this business didn't work out, this job didn't work out, then that means you will get a better job. If this relationship didn't work out, perhaps a better relationship is waiting for you. But you tried, you went into it. And that is how you take your setbacks. That's how you take your failures and you turn them to your own favor. Because that failure has taught you so much at this point. That failure is just showing you as to how you can now do things differently. No different. No different. I will give you an example of last few years when I was in another city and was trying to do a venture. Now, I did not have a GPS in the car in those days, but I would have addresses, and I would always mix the name of the streets. Always mix the number of streets from the avenue to street, and I would find myself in various different areas where I shouldn't have been. And I always said, thank God for the U-turns. Because when I realized I was making a mistake, I made a U-turn. And it happened to me 2, 3, 4 times that I completely confuse avenues with the streets. 152nd Street and 152nd Avenue are 2 different things. And I found myself on Avenue when I was supposed to be going on the street. So it taught me, because I was not used to it. From the city that I come from, we do not have avenues and street numbers, and that taught me. That showed me by just using those U-turns. So that's very, very important. When we take whatever our setbacks are, we learn from our setbacks and we go. You see, the difference between successful people and people who do not make decisions is that successful people, they're not the one, they also fail. They fail more often, but then they learn from it. And that is the most important part. I was listening to an investor, and their analogy was very, very simple. They said that if we make an investment in 10 corporations that are developing something new, and the 9 companies, 9 of those investments fail, but if one works out, it will pay for all the 10 plus the gains that we're looking for. So you see, when we make decisions, we know some of them will not do it. But 9 out of 10, 9 failures out of 10. But the 10th failure, 10th venture makes it. This is when you are making yourself. So these are the people who make decisions. These are the people who somebody said in baseball you get on the bat for 10 times. 7 misses and you can still make yourself a Hall of Famer, because you play with your own odds. You play with what is available to you. And you will succeed. You see? So instead of looking at failures as setbacks and evidence that you see you made one more mistake, I look at it the other way around. I say this is one more lesson that I learned. You know, the pain, the suffering of not making a decision is lifelong. When the pain of failure that goes away, because it only gives you a chance to go back and do something else. So I've always looked at it from that point of view. I've always looked at it that we need to go out, make a decision, make people do the decision, go make that decision, go forward with it. and you will do better. Now, here are certain strategies that can overcome self-doubt. Now, again, simple 10, 10, 10. You see, ask yourself a question if you're going to make this decision. How you're going to feel 10 minutes from now? How you're going to feel 10 months from now? And how you're going to feel 10 years from now? Get talked about. What is your potential in this? Yeah, it may look like very difficult right now. Because at the beginning it hits. It says, wow, I am not able to make this. But then 10, 10, 10. How do you see yourself in 10 minutes? Well, that's very quick. But 10 months, you start thinking about it. 10 years, if it's something great, that you can turn that into something great, all of a sudden the ideas start coming in. So that's number one. Number two is collect the evidence. Now, what do I mean by that? Collecting the evidence, speak to so many people who say, well, I cannot make the decision. When I make a decision, it's not right. And I always say, you sure all the decisions you made were wrong? I said, no, I made some right decisions also. Collect the evidence. Get the evidence of all the right decisions that you made. And all of a sudden you start seeing that it's not as bad as you thought for a decision maker. So collect the evidence of your own. Okay? Then find your confidence anchors. See where have you been successful. These are your anchors. These are the ones where you find yourself into rebuilding into your own anchors. What were your confidence anchors? What gives you confidence? How can you get more confidence in yourself? And those confidence anchors will help you go forward. Then you have to set it as an experiment. Now that, to me, is always been the most important part for anything that we do. Because what happens is this. Whenever I want to start something, I say, you know what? I'm going to experiment it. I'm going to give it 90 days. I'm going to do it 120 days. I'm going to give it 365 days. But whatever it is, make it an experiment. Once you make it as an experiment, then you're making the decision. Then you are fighting or going against that self-doubt. And that helps so much. That helps going forward. That helps doing things. That helps getting into your venture. Then number 5 is use the rocking chair method. See yourself, you're 90 years old, and see how much joy that particular venture gets you. Not when I say venture, I don't mean business, anything that you want to do. See how does that help you in your long term. So you see, the whole idea of self-doubt, when you start breaking it down with no fluff, with all the simple methods, with all the simple things that you can think of in your own mind, because you have made decisions in your life and they have done well. Yes, there are some decisions that are difficult, but most of them have done well. And you have learned from the past, you have learned from the people. So what holds you back from making a decision? What holds you back is the self-doubt. But what is the self-doubt? It's a mechanism which just holds you back. But if you sat and thought about it properly, then you can do so much. So, my friends, self-doubt is self-created. It's in our own mind. And if we can just, whatever I talked about before, whatever small pointers that I gave, if you can take those pointers, if you can put them together, then you will see that self-doubt, it is, yes, for your protection, but then it is holding you back from thinking as to how great things could be when the results come out. Think about taking that dive at the edge of the board, where you think the water may be cold, where you think you may belly flop, where you think people are going to laugh at you. Now think the other way around. See the pleasure that is going to give you. So that is about the self-doubt. I have always been a person who do not doubt myself. So it's easier for me to talk about this. And I hope that you can get something out of this podcast today. And I hope that you will show it to somebody who needs it. And please subscribe to my channel. Till next time, I'm Aslam Katri, wishing you goodbye.